I'm Brady Swenson, aka Citizen Bitcoin.
And I'm Gary Leland, and you're listening to episode 135 of the Crypto Cousins podcast.
Feed your interest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies by joining Hall of Fame podcaster Gary Leland on the Crypto Cousins podcast. And remember, we are all cousins in the world of crypto.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Howdy, Brady. Welcome to the show.
Howdy, Gary. Happy to be here. Excited to talk today.
You know, I think I gave you a fourth howdy there. You know, usually only Texans get fourth howdy. So either I like you or I'm out of it.
I'm glad to be an honorary Texan.
Yeah. So what's going on, Brady? You do Citizen Bitcoin. You're with Swan Bitcoin. You do a lot of stuff, and we're going to get into all that. But first of all, I want to find out a little bit about you. How'd you get into Bitcoin? Tell me all about it real quick.
Yeah, man. Well, I became aware of Bitcoin in 2017. The big price pump caught my attention. I mean, that's when I really became aware of it and started studying it. I had a Coinbase account back in 2014, but I had trouble connecting my little regional bank up to Coinbase. Back then, they were really only working with the bigger banks, and so I just kind of gave up because there was some friction there, and I didn't really know what it was anyway. Of course, when I found out in 2017 what was really going on and started studying it, I was like, oh, I think I remember this. And I went back in my email and I found that Coinbase email in 2014. And of course, you have that moment that a lot of Bitcoiners have, like, damn it, I wish I would have taken it seriously then, you know?
We all have that moment.
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes it takes people 3 or 4, times to come across it, and before they actually dive down the rabbit hole. It was a crazy time that year. Big run up. I was trying to figure out what was going on, was listening and reading to all sorts of people. I was not yet, convicted about Bitcoin being really the one cryptocurrency that has a chance at becoming the global money. So, in short, I was not a Bitcoin maximalist yet. I was trying to figure out what was going on with the fork. I remember the big fork wars going on with Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin.
That's about when I got into it, right before the Bitcoin Cash fork.
Yeah, like August 2017 was when the fork actually happened. The debates were going on for months, even years before that.
Yeah, because I didn't get any Bitcoin from the fork. So I think I was like right after the date they did the snapshot, maybe.
Yeah.
That's all I can think of.
Yep. Yeah. So I did get the Bitcoin Cash from the fork, and I remember there was a big run up on Bitcoin Cash. It was like the day or two before before Thanksgiving in November, and Coinbase launched Bitcoin Cash as a cryptocurrency to trade, and there was a Bitcoin Cash pair. But they did not announce this. I
remember.
Yeah, they just launched it, and Bitcoin Cash started going nuts versus the Bitcoin price and in USD, of course. And I had this Bitcoin Cash from the fork, so I was like 50-50 basically at that point. I hadn't sold it yet. And I that night was watching this thing go up, and I happened to be in a group. I was, trying to trade at that point, which is silly. And like anybody who was trading at that point made money because everything was going up. So it's not like, everyone thought they were an awesome trader because you were all making money. But then I found a rude awakening when I got my tax bill the next year.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I happened to be in this trading room on like Discord or Telegram or something. And they were saying like, oh man, this red candle that's coming up is going to be epic. It's going to be the biggest, red candle we've seen ever in the history of crypto. And so, I was like actually thinking in my head, like, is this like for real? Is Bitcoin Cash actually going to overtake Bitcoin? Like, is this actually happening in the narrative that Bitcoin Cash was throwing out there? And I think a lot of new Bitcoiners were thinking that too, just kind of scared, the FUD they'd been throwing out for months.
Yeah. I was concerned. I was actually messaging people I knew that had been in it a long time. They're going, no, you're just going through your first one. Calm down. It's going to be okay. That's what everybody kept telling me. I was like, okay, I'm going to take you guys' words on it. But I was really concerned.
Oh
And I'd
yeah,
just
me
gotten
too.
into it, and I'd put what I felt like was a good amount of money into it. And
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was freaking out. Fortunately, I was in this room with some Bitcoiners, and they're like, "Oh man, it's going to crash. It's going to go crazy. Just watch what happens." And indeed, it started. This big red candle started forming, and I just sell, 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 and I caught it like at a pretty high price, and I was really happy with how much Bitcoin I had then. Fortunately, about that point, I really started understanding because when Bitcoin kind of won in the fork wars, I was like, okay, all right, so this is probably the one, and really started studying it hard. It only took a couple months after that point. By January of 2018, I was all in on Bitcoin and actually started the Citizen Bitcoin podcast early that year. It was just me and my friend Tommy talking Bitcoin, so it didn't have a lot of traction until I started interviewing Bitcoiners the next year. But that was a great way for us to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's almost my same story exactly. And according to American Hodl, he was on
Yeah.
a month or two ago, and he told me that almost every Bitcoiner has three times that they like venture into or look at Bitcoin, and usually it's the third one that most of the
Right.
time people get into it and finally get into it. It's the third time. He said
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that was right for me, and I got into it, I guess, a little bit after you because you were in the snapshot for Bitcoin Cash, and I wasn't
Yeah.
in the snapshot. So I must have barely missed that, and that's when I started my podcast too. Was on that run up, and it was a learning
Yep.
thing, and we were, doing a podcast to learn about Bitcoin because you could ask people you wanted to know.
Exactly.
Instead of like
Exactly.
listening to someone, you could go ahead and ask the questions.
Yeah.
And now I think we've become hardened Bitcoiners because we've gone all the way up to 19 and all the way down to 32. We're still in it.
Yep.
Yeah, so
exactly.
we've gone through the. Now we can claim we've gone through the rings. If you got in at 50 cents and went up to 19, well, it's not quite as hard coming down to 32.
Exactly.
As it
But they
is.
went, if you got in at 50 cents and held there, you went through several, at least two
Yeah.
major bear markets till the third one. So
You went through your own version. You're correct.
yeah,
You're
for
correct.
sure.
Where'd you come up with the name Citizen Bitcoin?
Citizen Bitcoin. Well, my dad actually is, he retired recently. So he was a PR professional, communications professional. And he was really on the forefront of, they call, I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's basically where he pairs up corporations with nonprofits and helps to basically both sides. Like the corporation helps the nonprofit sort of lends some of its reputation to the corporation, and you can do well on both sides. And he had a blog called Citizen Brand, and he wrote a lot about branding and communications and this particular kind of PR that he was sort of helping develop. And it's now, of course, kind of a regular part of a communications plan. So when I was trying to come up with a name for the podcast, we were, just brainstorming and thought of Dad's blog. And I was like, yeah, this, Citizen Bitcoin, I kind of like this. And then, we decided on it because it was just the idea of being a good citizen of Bitcoin and learning, really dedicating yourself to learning about what's going on and teaching others.
I'd not put it in that way of being a good citizen of Bitcoin. I always thought about it just being a citizen of Bitcoin. So maybe I don't think in the proper manner or something. But that's a good name. I always wondered. We met in San Francisco not this last spring, but the spring before. I guess we're still in the spring kind of this year at a rooftop carnivore dinner. And had a lot of people on the show since then from that dinner. I made a lot of friends that night that some I knew already from online, but some I had not even met before. And you were one of the people I had not even met before.
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
So that was a really great event. And I was really, I felt like that trip to San Francisco exposed me to so many new people.
Yeah.
That because when I went, I didn't feel like I knew that many. And so I was really looking forward to this year's event, to being exposed to a bigger group of people because I felt like I had a strong core now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was supposed to be twice as big as last year. It was going to be about 4,000 Bitcoiners. And the year before, it was the first Bitcoin conference in like of that the BTC Media had held, I think in 4 years or something. And so I think of it as the first. They had 2,000 or so. And that rooftop beefsteak dinner was amazing. It was really helped kind of launch Citizen Bitcoin as well, because I met a lot of the other podcasters who I'd been listening to and learning from, and met a lot of future guests of the show up there. So
exactly the same.
Shout out to CK, Christian Careless of BTC Media. He wrote to me and said, "Hey man, you got to buy a ticket to this. You got to be there."
I had just contacted Pierre because I guess 6 months before we had the first BitBlock Boom, and Michael had a carnivore dinner. And I knew I was going to this, and I knew Pierre was. I said, "Hey, Pierre, we should do a carnivore dinner out there because that was so good."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, there's already one happening." And I was like, "Oh, well, send me the scoop."
Yeah.
And he sent me the link, and luckily I got it in time to get on there, or I wouldn't have known about it at all if I hadn't been interested in putting one together, because I thought we needed one. So I was tickled pink to go to, and then I think, you were in that photo. They took a photo of all the podcasters who were there.
Yeah, that was a great photo.
It was a great lineup there. I mean, that was a great picture to be in. That was a great lineup of podcasters.
Absolutely, yeah. Marty and Matt and Peter and Stefan was there, and you and me. I think that was the group. I was definitely honored to be in that group. I was just a tiny little podcaster at that point.
yeah. And then you told me about Guy, and he's become a good friend of mine online. I haven't met him yet, but he's coming to. I met him last year at BitBlock Boom. I don't know why I had said I met him yet. And he's speaking this year at BitBlock Boom. So yeah, and you're the one who told me about Guy. I didn't know his show. So you said, I said, "What podcast do you listen to?" And you told me. I said, "Okay, well, I'll subscribe right now," and I've been listening to it ever since.
Crypto Economy podcast. Guy is a good friend of mine, and I say this a lot, but he was my first Bitcoin friend, the first Bitcoiner that I really got to know kind of on a personal level, chatting online. And then he stayed at an Airbnb with me at Bitcoin 2019, that conference we were talking about. So yeah, he stayed with me and got to know each other well. And his podcast is just a fantastic service to Bitcoin. He reads. If you're not listening to it, you got to check it out. He reads the best Bitcoin articles. It's kind of like an Audible for Bitcoin.
Yeah, he does a much better job of reading than I do when I read.
I love his voice. He's a great reader. And then he goes on rants afterwards, and those are always epic. He just knows what he's talking about. He's been in Bitcoin for a long time.
I think it was 3 weeks ago, maybe. I realized it was Friday afternoon at 2, and I realized I hadn't done a show yet for Monday for the editor. So I messaged him, "Hey, can you come on the show right now?" He's like, "Okay." So I said, "I don't have anything prepared. We're just going to sit here and talk." So he was a good sport about that. So now you're also working with Corey Klipstein at Swan.
Yep.
How's that going? And tell us a little bit about Swan and what we're doing there. I'm I guess an advisor for that. I help out when I can.
Yep. Yeah, Corey Klipstein, he is an incredible networker. He's put together an incredible network of Bitcoiners. He runs
That's a list that I'm happy to be on with
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when you look at that list, you go, wow, I'm on that list.
It's an amazing roster of Bitcoiners that are advisors. And, we really do take a lot of input from those advisors. We're writing a book for Give Bitcoin, which is our sister product for Swan Bitcoin.
And that's at givebitcoin.io.
GiveBitcoin.io. Yep, makes it easy to give Bitcoin to friends and family, and then we sort of become your partner in educating them. So you don't have to take on all that burden, and we'll kind of bring them along from what really is money, why Bitcoin's better, how Bitcoin works, and then prepare them after a year. We hold the Bitcoin for a year. With the idea of when the year's over, you are prepared. The recipient is prepared. To take the Bitcoin and hold their own keys. So, and then the companion, the next step is to start auto stacking recurring buys of Bitcoin with Swan, which we think is the best way to buy a Bitcoin. You don't have to time the market or anything like that.
Now, I had someone contact me today, someone I've known for years, and they we're using Swan. And by the way, if you're not familiar with Swan, check it out. You can use my affiliate link, GaryLeland.com/Swan, SWAN. But they were using it, and they said, and I didn't know what they meant, so I was going to ask you this. Mm-hmm. And they said that they were not thinking that it that it made the purchase fast enough or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, we're a small startup, and there is fraud risk with using the ACH system, the legacy banking system. And so we have to basically we hold the money for 10 to 15 days until that ACH hold clears. Other exchanges or on-ramps for Bitcoin who can offer it much quicker, like Coinbase is a 4-day withdrawal window. They take on more risk. They have a lot more money to take on that risk, and we have
they
much
kind of
lower...
self-insure it because they got more money behind them, so they aren't going to miss the loss as much as small startups gonna.
Exactly, and the other big part of it is we have much lower fees than Coinbase. So part of the deal for us to have much lower fees is that we have to sort of mitigate that risk a little bit more. But we think the trade-off is worth it, because once you start stacking, once you get past that initial 10 to 15 days, you're buying your Bitcoin every week, every month, whatever, and you don't really even notice it happening. We're just, taking the withdrawal 10 days ahead of the purchase. And so you're still stacking on a regular basis once you get past that first one.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, because he was telling me that, and I told him, I said, I haven't heard that from anyone. I haven't heard anyone complaining and are saying that. So I said, I'll ask, because I'm talking to someone today. So I figured that was the easiest way to find out. I'll tell him to listen to the show, and he can. But the concept on Swan is that you could say, if you said to yourself, I want to buy some Bitcoin every payday, and I get paid every other week, let's say, and I make a certain dollar amount, and I want to put 5% of that into Bitcoin. You could say, I want to buy this much Bitcoin every other week, and then that process is done for you automatically, and you don't have to mess with it. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to sit there and remember or forget. You're just going to stack sats automatically, and I think it's pretty much everyone accepts it, that if you just dollar cost average buy on a regular basis, you're going to do pretty good long term. I mean, instead of like trying to pick the bottom. I mean, it's just hard to do.
Yeah, it's very, very hard to do, basically impossible in the long run to do that. You might be successful a few times, but yeah, in the long run, you just can't predict what's going on. In general, during a bull run, the price is going to be going up. So the best thing to do is just buy a little bit every week, and your average cost basis is going to be roughly in the middle of, the low and the high. So it's a good place to be.
I have found, though, that people I tell that they should buy a little every week or something, start out buying a little every week. That not that a lot of them have taken my word for it, but the ones that have, start buying on a regular basis, every week, every month, whatever. But then when Bitcoin starts dipping, like recently it dipped down to 38.
Yeah.
And I was dollar cost averaging every day I was buying. And I was like going, oh my gosh, this is great. This is great. And I was buying more, but I found many of them quit buying instead. And they're going, oh my gosh, I'm losing money. I'm losing money. I'm losing money.
Yeah.
Instead of going, so they're thinking, being a newbie, instead of someone who's gone through this and nothing phases me anymore. I mean, and my wife's getting that way now, but it doesn't phase me at all. If it drops to 22, I probably am not phased. But instead of and actually on some days I was buying twice as much. Going, well, I'm not buying that amount. I'm buying twice as much now. But they quit. So I think that these concept, what I'm trying to get at, the concept behind Swan, doing it for you, and you're not looking at it all the time. If you're a newbie, you get to take advantage of it instead of getting scared, and you stop, and then it goes back up like it has now to 75, and you go, man, I can't believe I wasn't buying that. I quit buying that from the time it was 6 to 38.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't take advantage of the low.
Set it and forget it, and then you don't have to go through that psychological cycle, right? And we've seen those graphs of the cycle that you go through in a bull and then a bear market, and then eventually you get into this despair mode where that's where most people sell. They sell out. They're selling all the way down, and when you've given up completely, you're just like, oh, you capitulate, and I'm out. I've lost all this money, and that's where the people, the hodlers with conviction, will scoop up those sats at a low price, and then it starts going back up again. And then, of course, the halving that decreases the supply, has an effect on that as well. If the buy pressure stays the same, supply cuts in half. Basic economics there. And I wanted to go back to the idea about saving, right, on a regular basis. And Americans aren't really used to saving anymore. There's two ways that we're sort of used to saving now. in this fiat age. And one is your 401k, and you automatically contribute to that with every paycheck. Sometimes your employer matches some of that or whatever. And then your mortgage, your home. So you're regularly adding to the equity investment of your home. And so we like to think of Swan as another kind of similar regular savings product. Set it and forget it, let it go. Think about it in a long term. Mortgages 15, 30 years. 401ks are similar. You're contributing to it ideally your whole career. So just start thinking about it that way, and long term, and we think you'll do well.
Yeah, well, I obviously agree with you, or I wouldn't be buying as I see it dropping every time. And my wife's sort of going, "Man, this is crazy. Look at this thing going down." I'm going, "I know. I'm going to buy some more."
Yeah.
She just doesn't have as much. She believes because she thinks I know what I'm talking about, but that's the only reason is after 38 years she thinks hopefully I know what I'm talking about.
I love it because my wife's in the same position now, and I told her, I was like, "Look, it's down to 3,800, in the $4,000 range," and I was expecting her to raise an eyebrow and be a little afraid, but she just looked at me steel-eyed and was like, "Are we buying more?"
Here's
I was like, "Cheers."
Here you go. Here's something I always laugh at. Now my wife, as it's dropping to 38, is not that excited, but she's not saying anything. She does. Yeah. I just do it. And she goes, "Did you buy more Bitcoin today?" And I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Okay." And she goes, okay. But, in San Francisco, during Bitcoin 2019, it went up to like $14,000 that weekend. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're in our hotel, and gosh, it might have been the night of the beefsteak dinner. I'm not sure, but I was kind of buzzed. I do know I was kind of buzzed.
Yeah.
And I've fallen asleep in bed. My wife stays up really late, so I'm asleep and she's watching TV. And at like 3 a.m, my wife wakes me up. And she's like, Gary, what? She goes, "Bitcoin's going crazy. It's like 14,000. I'm like, "Oh, good. She goes, "I think we should buy some more." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "I think we should buy some more." I said, "There's no way I'm getting up at 3 a.m. to buy Bitcoin out of a deep night's sleep. It just ain't happening, Kathy."
At $14,000 too.
Yeah. And she goes, "Well, I don't know. It's just going up like this. I think that we should buy some more." I go, "It's not happening. We're not buying any more tonight. We'll look at it in the morning when we get fresher minds." But it's kind of funny. 14,000. And that's the way a lot of people are.
Yeah.
14,000. I want to buy
exactly.
3,800. I don't want any of that. That's
the psychology.
Down.
Yeah, that's the psychology of the market cycles. That's why if you can stay calm on both ends of that psychological cycle, then you can make a lot of gains.
Yes, you can. If you can, that's one of the things dollar cost averaging does for you, if you can stick with it. And that's what Swan, I think, helps you do. It helps you stick with it because you're not looking at it to see it. You just know what's happening in the background. Hey, and before we go any further, I do want to make sure everybody listening knows about BitBlock Boom. If you listen to this show at all, you definitely know about BitBlock Boom, but it's a Bitcoin conference I put on in Dallas, Texas. Every August this year, we're having the third one, and this is a Bitcoin conference, not an altcoin conference or a crypto conference or a blockchain conference. This is a Bitcoin maximalist conference. If you get caught talking about altcoins, you'll be asked to stop the first time. Second time, you'll be taken out in the hallway. Third time, you'll be asked to leave the building. So this is a strict Bitcoin conference. It's in August, like I said, in Texas. So go to bitblockboom.com and check it out. And if you use the code word cousins, COUSINS, when you purchase your ticket, you'll save 30% off the price of your ticket. So I hope we get to see you there. And Brady, I'm feeling pretty comfortable now. I was kind of like, for about a 3-week period there, I was never canceling, but I started to get kind of concerned, a little bit. But now I'm starting to feel pretty confident. They started releasing stuff today, lifting bans today in Texas. By the time August comes, it's going to be 110.
Yeah.
So it's Texas. So if the heat affects it at all, that's going to help kill it off. And I think, we're going to be like really the first, well, there aren't that many real Bitcoin conferences. There's a lot of crypto conferences, but not many Bitcoin conferences. But we're going to actually be one of the first conferences of the year.
Yeah.
Tone got his in Vegas right before. That was as late as you could probably do it. Yep. If you'd have been 2 weeks later, it probably wouldn't have happened. Yep. And now it's going to come to ours. So I think we're going to have a heck of a conference coming up.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about having it. We're kind of like getting prepared for Corona. We're ordering hand sanitizer stations, put
Nice.
everywhere, and
That's a
trying
good
to find
idea.
a sponsor to pay for those.
Yeah.
And we're thinking about giving out in the goodie bags even masks,
Okay.
Bitcoin masks that people can wear
Nice.
if they're worried about it. They can
That'll
put them
be
on.
at the very least, that'll be an awesome memento to have from this year.
So I was looking at those last night, and I figured, there's some people like Rockstar Developer and MBK who are speaking who don't like everyone knowing who they are, and Bitcoin Tina. So they could always wear their masks when they're speaking, So I was trying to figure out how to handle them for the live stream.
Right.
Because we're doing a free live streaming. So I was trying to figure out how to handle them. So that would be a way. So we got a lot of new things we're trying to work on that'll be different than before to handle the coronavirus situation.
Well, I'm glad it's still on, and I am absolutely hope that things will be calmed down by then, and that we can have the conference. And it's been a crazy time. It's been a strange time, man.
Well, I think, like I said, down here, I know things are different, like in New York and some cities in California, I saw the deaths were up.
Yep.
But here, I mean, I know like one of the bigger hospitals in Dallas has 9 people in there with coronavirus. I mean, that's not really that big a deal. And they've had this lockdown for a month. Like my wife didn't leave the house for 3 weeks. And yesterday she came up here to the office and went to Costco. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel like, okay, I'm getting out. I don't know anyone dying down here. I mean, I know there are people dying. We just don't know anyone that's died or even had it,
Yeah. And the strange thing is, like if the numbers aren't as bad as, were projected or whatever, we'll never know if the quarantine was needed because, if we hadn't done it, who knows what would have happened. And we're in this timeline now. And so we have to deal with it. I am a little concerned about the economic fallout. Probably will be longer lasting and, could be more devastating, I think.
Well, we got our PPP money yesterday or day before yesterday. Yeah. So off the first, we made it into that first batch before we got cut off. And we got our PPP yesterday, which was really nice. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, we got free money.
Free Bitcoin.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely, you have to spend that on, but that's the thing. You have to spend that on employees, 75% on employees and 25% on rent and electric and utilities. So that has to go to certain things, but that does free up other money.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
In our situation, some businesses aren't in this situation. Some businesses are doing fine and they have it like if you have a carrier service, well, your business is probably up and you're still getting paid that money. In our case, our stores have physically been closed.
Right.
And we've been working the employees doing piddly tasks, online tasks and things like that, but no one's coming in the store buying anything.
Right.
Trying to keep people employed because they got
that's rough
to feed. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just been dwindling down the money. So the money is very much appreciated. Now we can keep doing that without it coming out of our personal pocket.
So when are your stores back open, or are they already?
Well, the wallpaper store's open yesterday. It opened yesterday because we knew about today, and it's it can be open technically because it could have probably been open before, but we didn't feel comfortable doing it. But now we do, and it falls under like Home Depot. We sell construction, commercial wallpaper, and stuff like that.
Okay.
The sporting goods store is still closed, and it can't be open according to the rules. And I mean, who's buying softball equipment, baseball equipment? No one. No one's playing.
Yeah.
We missed the college season. We missed the high school season. We missed the spring select season for travel ball teams. So, that business is going to suffer greatly. The wallpaper business has still done a good online business because people are stuck in their house, so they're decorating.
Right. Yeah. It's something you can do.
Yeah. I think that's actually our online business is the best online business has been in years for the wallpaper store.
That makes
people
sense.
Aren't doing that. Yeah.
It's been on your list for a long time. Might as well check it off when you're in quarantine.
Yeah, you can't do anything else, right? Hey, I want to talk to you last Saturday, I think. I saw someone posting, people were talking about, kind of like a declaration against fiat in favor of Bitcoin. And I saw someone post, is there really such a thing? And then the next day, there was. Yeah, the next day, yours came out. And I didn't know if you saw that guy asking, is there really such a thing? And you said, well, I'm going to make one.
That's crazy. No, I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, that was the thing that night. People were talking about it and someone posted, is this a real thing? And then the next morning I woke up and I was tagged in something and you had tagged me and you had written a Bitcoin declaration. I wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, this was a couple of Fridays ago, I think, a couple of weeks ago. Maybe it was last Friday. I don't know. I think it was last Friday, actually.
That's what I think. It was like last weekend.
Yeah, it was last weekend, right? I had been playing a poker game on Zoom with some of my buddies, and we wrapped it up around midnight. And I was just like not ready to go to bed. Poured myself a little whiskey and just hopped on Twitter, and I don't know where
you saw that post and you were just so drunk you can't remember.
Maybe, I don't know, but
I'm
pretty sure I didn't. I hadn't really been drinking much since then.
I'm just joking.
Or before then. But yeah, I don't know where the inspiration came from. I think I'd been posting a lot of historical stuff for Swan and on my own account. And last week I posted this quote from George Washington about paper money ruining the commerce in your state. He was writing a letter to, I think, one of the officials, like maybe the governor of Rhode Island, and they had started printing paper money. And I started doing a little research on kind of the positions of the founding fathers on central banking and gold standards and fiat money. And I just happened upon the idea, right, of this Declaration of Monetary Independence. And since I wrote it, I mean, it's amazing the parallels between the Declaration of Independence and really what Bitcoin stands for in a sort of moral way, and the political consequences, implications of Bitcoin between that and the Declaration of Independence. I've since found out that there were a couple other attempts. I found somebody sent me a Reddit post. Somebody sent me another, like a blog post that did something similar. So the idea is out there, which is not surprising to me because it's just kind of obvious once it occurs to you.
Well, I thought it was very well done, and there were a lot of similarities between the Declaration of Independence and actually talking about George Washington. I believe it was George Washington who, when he was talking about the continental money that the states were using, said, if you have a wagon full of money, it may be worth what the wagon's worth.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if we're going to see that again. I mean, if that's a first sight of what's going to happen, a wagon full of dollars or a truck full of dollars are going to be worth what the truck's worth.
That's history says that's the inevitable end of fiat money. It's happened, many, many times throughout history. Once a gold standard is abandoned, the cycle that you get into, and the idea that you should bail out, businesses during a down cycle to try to limit the natural consequences of the, capitalist boom, market boom bust cycle. Then there's moral hazard at that point. You can't not do that again. And then you have all these kind of zombie companies that are not profitable and shouldn't be around. You also, stop the sort of the clearing out of the businesses that creates a lot of entrepreneurial activity, and you destroy the signal, that the pricing signal that really should be sending information out to entrepreneurs and producers about what's in demand. But when you start printing money and bailing out companies in times of economic downturns, then those price signals can't function properly, and you do get all kinds of messy consequences because of it.
It's like trying to save the buggy whip company.
Yeah.
You say, hey, we need that buggy whip company. They employ a lot of people. We can't let them go under. Exactly. But everybody's driving cars. Yeah, but they make a great damn buggy whip. We need to keep those around. You never know.
You just need faster horses.
Yeah. So now I've also seen someone, I'm not sure what's going on. Someone is making images. Because I've seen an image on a Twitter header of someone's signature. I received one the other day. It looks like it's on a scrolled up piece of paper.
Yeah.
An image, with my signature on it. So someone's doing something there with these images. So what's going on there?
Yeah, Swede Toshi. S-W-E-E.
That's who it was.
Yeah, Toshi. Swede Toshi is a friend of mine on Twitter. He's a cool dude and loves to do these, make things into GIFs and images. And so he kind of jumps in when there's sort of this kind of, inspiring thread. And this kind of fit perfectly with something he likes to do. So he had this like scroll image and just started putting people's signatures on there in kind of this, old-fashioned script that sort of looked like the signatures on the the John Hancock signature on the Declaration of Independence. So yeah, he I think does a lot of fun things like that. So definitely follow Sweet Toshi if you're not yet. It's
Well,
a fun follow.
if he makes something like an actual Declaration of Independence, we need to get an image of that, and we'll have it blown up and make it into a thing to put on the wall there at BitBlock Boom. So let me know if
actually,
that happens and I miss it.
Somebody asked Lucio Paletti in that thread, who is my favorite Bitcoin artist, at Lucio Paletti, I think is his Twitter handle, or just search Lucio Paletti, Poletti. And he said that he would make a digital version of it, that's not like just a Medium post or a Twitter thread. So I'm sure he'll do an amazing job if he does get around to it.
And that's at Lucio Paletti, LuchoPoletti.
Yep.
Yeah. And he
He's
does
an
some pretty
amazing
good
artist.
stuff. There are a lot of great Bitcoin artists out there.
Yeah.
In this sphere.
Another favorite of mine is Brecky von Bitcoin, at BVBTC, I think, on Twitter. He does a lot of great stuff and very creative dude.
He was at BitBlock Boom last year. Matter of fact, he brought me a Bitcoin bee that's like a foot tall that he had made out of ceramics or something. I mean, it's gold in color, but of course it's not made out of gold. And he carried it on his flight, and he kept getting checked at the X-ray machines for having this big old thing in there.
Yeah.
And so he gave that to me, and I was caught off by surprise. I was not prepared. Matter of fact, I have it on one of my sets in the studio here in the backdrop of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool. I like him a lot. He's a really nice guy.
Great guy.
Yeah. So okay. So is there any chance we could get you to read that for people? Or because that's a lot to read. So if you don't want to, I understand, because it's a lot. So I'm going to leave that up to you.
It's about a 4-minute read. I'd be happy to read it, though. I know Guy Swan, the voice of Bitcoin, will be reading it. So at some point in the nearish future. So maybe we just let him do it. I don't know.
That's up to you. It's just a treat here for the cousins. If you want to read it now, if you
let's
don't,
do it.
Let's do it. Cool.
Let's do it. All right. A Declaration of Monetary Independence. An unanimous declaration of the decentralized nodes of Bitcoin, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for people to dissolve the monetary bands which have connected them with another, and to assume the separate and equal station to which the laws of natural money and of human nature entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of humankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to separation. We hodl these truths to be self-evident, that all humans deserve certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and property. That to secure these rights, Bitcoin is instituted among humans, deriving powers from the consent of the node operators, that whenever any form of the monetary policy becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the node operators to alter or abolish it, and to institute a new monetary policy, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and property. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that monetary policy long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that people are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such monetary policy and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these humans, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of monetary policy. The history of the present monetary policy of the United States is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over the money and of these humans. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. They have refused assent to monetary self-sovereignty, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. They have forbidden people to pass a monetary policy for the accommodation of the world of free people, unless those people would relinquish the right of the use of natural money, a right it's a hard word, inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. They have enabled private banking institutions at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their private ledger for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with their measures. They have debased bearer assets repeatedly for opposing with firmness their invasions on the rights of the people to natural money. They have refused for a long time after such debasements, whereby the monetary policy, incapable of annihilation, to return to the people at large their exercise, the people of the world remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. They have obstructed access to natural money by refusing the abdication of control of the money. They have kept among us, through tyranny of the monetary policy, even in times of peace, excessive standing armies without the consent of the people. They have combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution, and unacknowledged by our laws, giving assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for imposing surveillance among us through, among other methods, the use of their money, for imposing inflation on us without consent, for abolishing the free system of money, establishing therein an arbitrary monetary policy, and enlarging its jurisdiction so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into the rest of the world. For altering fundamentally the form of our money, they have abdicated monetary governance here by declaring the money to be in their sole protection and waging monetary war against us. They are at this time printing large amounts of this fiat money to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled even in the most barbarous ages. In every stage, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A chairman and government whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free money, nor should money be controlled by a central authority. We, therefore, the representatives of the nodes of Bitcoin in Nakamoto consensus, assembled together, appealing to the people of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the node operators, solemnly publish and declare that we, and of right ought to be, bearers of a self-sovereign money, that we are absolved from all allegiance to the monetary policy of the United States, and that all monetary connection between us and the Federal Reserve Bank and the global banking cartel is and ought to be totally dissolved. And that, as hodlers of self-sovereign money, we have full power to establish commerce and do all other acts and things which self-sovereign economic actors may of right to do. And for support of this declaration, with firm reliance on the protection of mathematics and cryptography, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Well, I think that's pretty good for a one-time straight read. You know, Guy wouldn't even do a straight read like that. He would have broken it down and done it in parts.
So yeah, inestimable. That's a hard one.
Yeah, thank you. Because I was reading it to my wife the other day when I said, listen to this thing this guy wrote. And I was reading, I was like, wow, that's a lot to read there. So that's why I was like saying, hey, if you don't want to, I'm not like trying to stretch. Something you did read there I thought was pretty interesting, though, as you said, life, liberty, and property. Mm-hmm. And now we know that term is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But I think it was originally written life, liberty, and property when it was originally written, and they changed it up to life, liberty, and I think Thomas Jefferson wanted it to be property.
Exactly. Yeah, Thomas Jefferson originally wrote it with life, liberty, and property, and it was changed to the pursuit of happiness. And I like the original a little bit better. I think it's a little bit more clear. It's an more objective term than the idea of the pursuit of happiness, which is very subjective. So I like that a little better. And I think life and liberty sort of covers the idea of the pursuit of happiness. So
right. I do too. I do too. I think they just wanted to get the property out of there.
Yeah, probably.
That was about. So I think that was really good. I appreciate you reading that. And I'm sure guys will be better. But then again, though, he's not going to get it all in one read like that. I guarantee you.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, it is pretty dramatic, right? I mean, but the Declaration of Independence was dramatic, and it was a dramatic time. And I can see somebody listening to me read that just be like, "Oh man, that's ridiculous. That's over the top." And this is, comparing the monetary policy that we have today, or the money that we have today, to the King of England and its policies against the United States, is ridiculous. But I disagree. I think that the harms that fiat money have inflicted upon us as people are subtle but profound and pervasive, and I think that it needs to be declared.
Yeah, I agree completely. I thought it was very exciting when I first saw it. Actually, and like I said, I was like, well, wow, this guy answered the guy's question last night. It was just weird timing.
Synchronicity, man. It happens all the time in Bitcoin. I see it all the time.
It happens all the time. Hey, we're getting about that time to get out of here. Is there anything that maybe you wanted to go over or tell people that I didn't tell people? Or I didn't ask, or I want to make sure you get a chance to promote anything or talk about anything we might have missed.
One thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately is the consequences of printing all this money right now. I think that this would have happened eventually, right? Maybe I was thinking that we'd go through at least one more cycle where the Federal Reserve would be able to kind of paper over another inevitable downturn in the economy. But I think that this black swan, to refer back to Taleb that we were talking about before we started recording, Nassim Taleb, this idea of a black swan, which is an unpredictable but extremely impactful event.
I think it's supposed to be, in hindsight, it should have been seen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. It's obvious in hindsight, but it's unpredictable before. Really, it seems obvious in hindsight, but that's a narrative fallacy that humans often do. Anyway, so yeah, black swan can be positive or negative. I think this is a negative black swan. I think Bitcoin's a very positive black swan, and that is actually one of the inspirations for the name of our company, Swan Bitcoin. But I think that this.
I was wondering because I really never thought of Bitcoin as a black swan event.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. And so now it all comes together to me. Yeah, I'm involved with it somewhat, and I didn't even know that. So yeah, it makes sense now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that we've really pulled the future forward with this, black swan event, this coronavirus. It's requiring the printing of all this money based on like I said, the moral hazard of this fiat Keynesian monetary policy. You can't, once you do it once, you can't not do it again. And so that's why fiat monies end inevitably in hyperinflation. So we might be at this very moment living through the beginning of hyper Bitcoinization, being a perfectly scarce asset and monetary good that's available as an alternative to dollars right now.
I've seen before, and I think, and don't hold me to this exactly, but the average lifespan of a fiat money is like 45 years or something.
Yeah, it's really short. It's something
and
on
we
that.
became
on that
fiat
order.
in like 73.
Yep.
So actually, we're kind of overdue. We've gone past the average here. So it really wouldn't be that unheard of for it to be.
Yeah. And that's because the dollar is the world reserve currency. So it's got a much larger network effect than, like a smaller country's fiat currency. And we see fiat currencies in Venezuela and Argentina, Rwanda, I think it was.
Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe. Yeah, right. That's right. I think that's the country I was thinking of. That have, gone through cycles, 10, 15, 20-year cycles. Argentina is just, famous for it. And so Argentinians just instinctively now understand the value of Bitcoin, whereas, Americans who have had the privilege of using as our native currency, the world reserve currency, it seems, pretty stable. And has been for several generations. It became the world reserve currency with Bretton Woods in 1944. In 1971 was when we went off the gold standard. So,
I knew it was when I was in high school. That's all I knew.
Yep, 71. In 71, Nixon took us off the gold standard.
I was thinking 73. I should have known that's the year I graduated, so I knew it wasn't. Yeah, I just needed to math.
Yep. So yeah, it's been many generations. That's why it's hard for us to really understand the need for something like Bitcoin.
Well, speaking of Argentina, I'm looking right now at Cointelegraph, and they have an article today: "Demand for Bitcoin surges in Argentina as
there you go.
Loom." That's an article from 12 hours ago.
Yep, there you go.
So, yeah, that's a great point and a great way to end it. Where can people find you at, follow you, or whatever? How should people? They want to keep up with what you're doing and keep up with you.
Yeah, so here's the list. I'm at Citizen Bitcoin on Twitter. Swan is at Swan Bitcoin on Twitter. We also have at Give Bitcoin. I've been doing the Citizen Bitcoin podcast at citizenbitcoin.world for 2 years now. For a little over a year, been interviewing Bitcoiners. There's 60 or 70 interviews in there now. Lots of great stuff to go through. If you haven't yet, an archive, scroll through it and find some names that you'd like to hear more from. And I think we've done some really good stuff there. We're also doing a podcast for Swan. It's a live broadcast on Twitter every Wednesday in the middle of the day. And then we do an audio archive at swansignalpodcast.com. So there you go.
Excellent. And I just want to let you know, it's official. You are a crypto cousin.
Thanks, man. Glad to be part of the family.
Yeah, part of the family here. And I appreciate you coming on the show. And I appreciate you taking the time to read that, because that was a long read.
It was, but that was fun.
I think you did a great job, and thanks for writing that. And I look forward to see how that evolves over the net and what happens with that.
Yeah,
and,
me too.
How that goes forward. And I guess if I don't see it, which I doubt I will see anywhere since nothing's scheduled everywhere. I told my wife this spring I'm going to do more traveling than I've ever done.
Yeah,
because I was going to be at between Tone's event and a Consensus, I was going to be at 6 or 7 events this spring, and I didn't go to but one. And this is probably the least I've ever traveled. And we didn't even go on a vacation. This is definitely the least I've ever traveled. So I'll probably see you then at BitBlock Boom. Be the first place I see you at again. And thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely, Gary. Really appreciate having me on.
This is a Bitcoin Boomer production.